I want to start this episode with a question, and I want you to sit with it for a second before you answer it. Even if you're driving, even if you're doing the washing up, even if you're pretending to be in a meeting right now. Here it is. When was the last time you asked a single individual, not a trust, not foundation, not a company, not a crowd of people at a gala dinner, but one specific person, by name, face to face, or on a call, for a gift that would genuinely shift your year? Something like £50,000. Not a tenner a month, not a collection bucket, not a sponsored run. A gift that would actually move the needle on your income. When was the last time you did that? If the answer is recently, brilliant. This episode is going to sharpen what you're already doing. If the answer is a while ago, this episode is for you. And if the answer is we don't really do that, then I need you to hear what I'm about to say because this episode contains the most important thing I will ask you to actually do this series. You are leaving the most significant, most sustainable, most relationship driven income stream in the entire fundraising toolkit completely untouched. And the data, the actual published data from 2026, says that right now, in this exact moment, that is one of the most expensive mistakes a UK health charity can make. Welcome back to the Strategic Health Check. I'm Jose Gaign, and this is episode 12, entitled It's Always the Quiet Ones. You'll learn why I named it that afterwards. The first of 3 finale episodes I'm releasing today. Right now, this episode is a diagnosis. Next episode, number 13, with my guest, Liz Darlison, MBE of Mesothelioma UK, is the human story. And finally, episode 14 is my honest verdict on the state of UK health charity fundraising and where I think we're heading. Together, they are my finale for season 1. Let's begin. Right, let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are extraordinary. The Charities Aid Foundation published their UK Giving 2026 report in March of this year. And I've been thinking about it ever since because it tells a story that the sector is not talking about loudly enough. Here is what the report found. 6 million fewer people donate to charity today than in 2016. 6 million. That is not a rounding error. That is not a blip. That is a decade-long structural decline in the number of people who give. Participation in charitable giving has fallen from 69% of adults to 55%. We are losing roughly 600,000 donors per year. And in 2025, total charitable giving fell from £15.4 billion to £14 billion, the first drop in 5 years. Now, if you're running a small to mid-sized UK health charity, you already feel this. You feel it in your direct mail response rates. You feel it in your online giving numbers. You feel it in the conversations you have with your fundraising team, where everyone is working harder and the results are staying flat or going backwards. But here is the part of the report that most people have not focused on. For most of the last decade, the sector survived this donor decline because a small group of high-value donors kept giving more. And that propped up total giving even as the participation numbers crumbled. That backstop is now under strain. The 2025 drop in total giving was driven by the average donation falling from £72 a month in 2024 to £65 in 2025. The cushion is thinning. But here is the bit you need to hold on to. The donors who can give are still there. 68% of higher rate taxpayers, people earning £50,000 or more, donated last year, compared with 55% of the general population. That gap matters. The CAF data also tells us that high trust donors give, on average, more than twice as much as low trust donors, £99 versus 43. The pool of casual, transactional, mass market donors is shrinking. The people who can give significantly, who do give significantly, and who give to the small number of charities they trust deeply, that pool is still there. It's still giving, and it's more important to your charity right now than it has ever been. Let me say that plainly. The mass market is shrinking from the bottom up. The donors with the capacity for significant gifts are still giving. The charities that build real relationships with those donors are going to be the ones still standing in 5 years' time. And the charities that keep relying on the shrinking mass market to do the work it used to do, even as the participation numbers fall, are going to find themselves in serious trouble. This is not a theory. This is not a trend I'm predicting. This is the published data in 2026, and it's one of the defining strategic realities of UK health charity fundraising at this moment. So, the question is not whether major donor fundraising is relevant to your charity. It certainly is. The question is whether you're going to do something about it. And that is what this episode is about. I want to say something now that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. And I'm going to say it anyway because that is what this podcast is for. If you have never asked a single individual by name in a real conversation for a gift that would genuinely shift your year, something like £50,000, then I want to gently but firmly suggest that what you are doing is not major donor fundraising. It's collecting. And I say that with enormous respect for the work you do, because collecting is not nothing. Regular giving programs, community fundraising, events, digital campaigns, all of it matters. All of it builds the base. But collecting is not the same as cultivating. And cultivating is not the same as asking. And asking is not the same as asking the right person for the right amount at the right time. Major donor fundraising is a discipline, it's a craft, and it is one that the vast majority of small to mid sized UK health charities have either never started or have started and quietly abandoned because it felt too uncomfortable, too slow, or too far outside the way they think about fundraising. And I understand that. I genuinely do. Because there is something about asking one person for a significant sum of money that feels different from everything else in fundraising. It feels personal. It feels exposed. It feels like if they say no, it means something about you or about your charity. But here's the thing. Let me tell you about a charity I worked closely with. a small health charity. Annual income just under £400,000. The chief executive had been in post for 3 years. Brilliant clinician, brilliant communicator, terrified of asking for money. They had a supporter, a woman whose late husband had been helped by the charity in the last year of his life, who had been quietly donating £250 a year for 6 years. Christmas card every December. Came to the carol service. Lovely woman. Never been asked for more. I sat with the chief executive for 2 hours and we wrote one letter. Then we made one phone call to invite her in for tea. 3 months later, she gave £40,000 to fund a specialist nurse post for a year. She told the chief executive afterwards that she had been waiting to be asked. She had been waiting for 6 years. She had assumed, because no one had ever brought it up, that the charity didn't need that kind of help. 6 years, one conversation, £40,000. That is the cost of not asking. The discomfort you feel about asking is not a signal that you should not ask. It is a signal that the ask matters. And the asks that matter are the ones that change organizations. I started my career as a door-to-door fundraiser. And I broke several records, which I'm proud of. And what that experience taught me, more than any training course, more than the ask is not the part. The scary part is the moment before the ask, when you are standing on the doorstep and you have not knocked yet. Once you knock, the conversation takes over. And most of the time, the conversation goes better than you feared. Major donor fundraising is the same. The ask is not the scary part. The scary part is deciding to knock. Today, I'm going to help you knock. Before we go any further, let me define what I mean by a major donor. Because this is one of those terms that means different things to different organizations, and I want us to be working from the same definition. A major donor is an individual who has the capacity and the inclination to make a gift that is significant relative to your charity's income and ambitions. That is it. That is the whole definition. Notice what I did not say. I did not say a major donor is a millionaire. I did not say they need to have given before. I did not say they need to be on a list somewhere. I did not say they need to be connected to your charity already. A major donor is someone who could give a gift that would genuinely matter to your organization and who has some connection, however tenuous, to the cause you serve. For a charity with £200,000 annual income, a major donor gift might be £5,000. That is 2.5% of your annual income from one person. That's transformational. For a charity with £1 million annual income, a major gift might be 25,000 or 50,000. Still one person, still transformational. With a charity with £5 million annual income, you might be thinking about gifts of 100,000 or more. And yes, those conversations happen. They happen more than you think. And they happen at charities much smaller and much less famous than yours. Now, there's a mythology around major donor fundraising. It says you need a development office, a team of relationship managers, a wealthy existing donor base, and a prestigious brand to do this work. Absolutely none of that is true. What it requires is simply a clear mission, a compelling case for support, the ability to identify the right people, and the willingness to have a real conversation. And here's the thing that small charities consistently underestimate. When someone gives a major gift to a large national charity like Cancer Research UK, the British Heart Foundation, Macmillan, their money goes into a pot. They might get a thank you letter. They might get a newsletter, but they're unlikely to ever speak to the chief executive. They are unlikely to ever see the direct impact of their gift. When someone gives a small major gift to a small or medium health charity, that's your charity, the relationship is entirely different. They can meet the people their gift is helping. They can speak to the chief executive directly. They can see in real time what their money is doing. The feedback loop between gift and impact is immediate and personal. That's your competitive advantage. And right now, in 2026, with donor behavior shifting toward relationship and away from transaction, that advantage is more valuable than it has ever been. Let me break down the major donor journey into its three essential stages, because understanding this will demystify the whole thing. Stage one: identification. Who are the people in your world, your existing supporters, your event attendees, your volunteers, your trustees networks, your local community, who have the capacity to make a significant gift? You're not looking for a long list. You are looking for a short list. 5 names, 10 names. That's enough to start. Stage two: cultivation. This is the part most charities skip, and it's the reason most major donor programs fail before they begin. Cultivation is not asking. Cultivation is building a genuine relationship with someone who cares about your cause. It is inviting them to see your work. It is having a conversation about why they give and what they believe in. It is treating them as a partner in your mission. Cultivation takes time. It's supposed to take time. The relationship is the point. Stage three: the ask. When you have identified the right person and cultivated a genuine relationship, the ask is not a cold pitch. It's a natural next step in a conversation that has been building. You are not asking them to do something for you. You are inviting them to do something that matters to them through you. That is a fundamentally different energy, and it changes everything about how the conversation goes. That's the whole framework. Identify, cultivate, ask. 3 stages, one relationship at a time. I want to spend a few minutes on the myths because, in my experience, these are the things that actually stop charities from starting a major donor program. Not lack of knowledge, not lack of time, myths. And the reason I want to address them now, before we get to the practical how to start steps, is that if you don't dismantle these beliefs first, no framework I give you will survive contact with Monday morning. Myth 1: we don't have the right donors. Every charity has potential major donors in its orbit. Every single one. The question is whether you have looked. Have you ever done a wealth screening of your existing supporter database? Have you ever asked your trustees who they know? Have you ever looked at who attends your events and thought about what they do for a living? The donors are there. You have not found them yet. Remember the CAF data. 68% of higher rate taxpayers donate. Some of them are in your orbit right now. They're at your events. They're on your supporter list. They are connected to your trustees. You just have not gone looking. Myth 2. We're too small. This one frustrates me more than any other because it is completely backwards. Being small is not a barrier to major donor fundraising. In many ways, it's an advantage. Small charities can offer something that large charities cannot: proximity, access, a real relationship with the people who make the decisions. A major donor who gives £20,000 to a charity with £300,000 annual income is a hero. The same gift to a charity with £50 million annual income is a rounding error. Which relationship do you think is more meaningful? Myth 3. It feels like begging. It is not begging. Begging is asking for something you have not earned and cannot justify. Major donor fundraising is presenting a compelling opportunity to someone who has the means, the motivation to make a difference, and inviting them to be part of something that matters. That is not begging, that is leadership. Myth 4. We don't want to damage the relationship. This is probably the one I hear most often, and it's the most understandable. You have a lovely relationship with this person. They come to your events, they volunteer, they send Christmas cards, and you are terrified that if you ask them for money, it will change things. Here's what I know from experience: the ask, done well, does not damage relationships, it deepens them because it says, I trust you enough to have this conversation. I believe in what we are doing enough to ask you to be part of it. The people who are genuinely connected to your cause are not going to be offended by a well crafted, relationship led ask. They are going to be honored. Remember the woman in the story I told you earlier? 6 years of giving quietly, 6 years of waiting to be asked, 6 years of assuming she was not needed in that bigger way. The damage was not in the asking, the damage was in the silence. Myth 5. We tried it once and it didn't work. Major donor fundraising is not a campaign. It's not a one off appeal. It's a program, a sustained relationship driven approach that builds over months and years. If you tried it once, sent a letter, got no response, and concluded it does not work, you did not try major donor fundraising. You tried a major donor letter. Those are not the same thing. The program works. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether you are willing to commit to it. Right. Enough theory. Let's talk about what you actually do. I want to give you a framework for starting a major donor program from scratch. Even if you have never done it before, even if you have no dedicated fundraising staff, even if your annual income is under £500,000. Step 1. Build your prospect list. Get a blank piece of paper or a spreadsheet if you prefer, and write down every person connected to your charity who might have the capacity to make a significant gift. Start with your existing supporters. Look at your donation history. Who has given consistently, even if the amounts have been small? Who has given at events? Who has volunteered their time? Because people who give time often have the capacity to give money too. Then go to your trustees and ask each of them, who do you know who cares about this cause and has the means to make a significant gift? You're not asking them to make the introduction yet. You are just building the list. You are aiming for 10 to 20 names, not 100, not a database, 10 to 20 people who are warm, connected, and potentially capable. Step 2, research and prioritize. For each name on your list, find out what you can about their connection to your cause, their giving history, and their professional background. Companies House, Charity Commission filings, LinkedIn, and basic Google searches are your friends here. You're not stalking anyone. You are doing the basic due diligence that any good relationship requires. From these research methods, prioritize your list down to 5 to 10 people who are your strongest prospects. Step 3, plan your cultivation. For each of your top prospects, map out a 6-month cultivation plan. What touch points can you create? An invitation to visit your work, a personal phone call from the chief executive, a behind the scenes briefing on a project they would find interesting, a handwritten note when something relevant happens in the news. You are not asking for anything at this stage. You are building a relationship. Every touch point should be genuine, personal, and relevant to what you know about that person. Step 4, make the ask. After 3 to 6 months of genuine cultivation, you will know whether the relationship is ready for an ask. The signals are they're engaging with your touch points, they are asking questions about your work, they are expressing enthusiasm about what you are doing. When those signals are present, you have a conversation, not a letter, not an email, a conversation in which you present a specific opportunity and make a specific ask. We are trying to raise £30,000 to fund a specialist nurse for 1 year. I would love to talk to you about whether you might consider being the lead donor for that project. That's it. That's the ask. Specific, personal, tied to impact, and delivered in the context of a relationship that has been built over months. Step 5, steward relentlessly. Whether they say yes or no, the relationship continues. If they say yes, your stewardship of that gift, the updates, the impact reports, the personal thank yous, the invitations to see the work, is what turns a one-off major gift into a long-term major donor relationship. If they say no or not yet, you thank them for their time, you keep the relationship warm, and you revisit it in 6 to 12 months. Major donor fundraising is a long game, but it's the most rewarding game in fundraising. And it's the one that builds the most sustainable income over time. I want to close this episode by telling you something. Everything I have talked about today, the identification, the cultivation, the ask, the long-term relationship, it's a framework. And frameworks are useful. But the most powerful thing I can give you is not a framework. It's a story because the truth about major donor fundraising, the thing that no framework can fully capture, is that it's about human beings. It's about one person believing in another person's vision so completely that they are willing to put their own resources behind it. It's about trust and conviction and the particular kind of courage it takes to say, I believe in what you're doing and I want to be part of it. And in the next episode, dropping today alongside this one, I am going to introduce you to someone whose entire career is a masterclass in exactly that. Liz Darlison, MBE, is the founder and chief executive of Mesothelioma UK, a charity she built from a single Macmillan Cancer Support grant in 2004 into one of the most respected specialist health charities in the country. She has 31 clinical nurse specialists embedded across the NHS. She has changed the standard of care for one of the most devastating cancers in the UK. And she did it in large part by understanding something that this episode has been building towards all along. She understood that the most important relationships in fundraising are not transactional, they are transformational. She understood that the people who would fund her vision were not going to be found in a direct mail campaign. They were going to be found in a conversation, a real, human, face to face conversation about why this matters and what is at stake. Liz's story is, at its core, a major donor story. The Macmillan grant that gave birth to Mesothelioma UK was not a form filling exercise. It was a relationship. It was a vision. It was someone saying, I believe in what you are trying to do and I'm going to back you. And 22 years later, 50,000 people have been helped by what that one relationship made possible. That is what major donor fundraising can do. Episode 13 is out now alongside this episode. Go and listen to it next because Liz's conversation is one of the most honest, most inspiring, and most practically useful conversations I've had in this entire series, and to be honest, probably in my entire life. And I can't wait for you to hear it. Right, homework time. And this week's homework is the most actionable I have set in this entire season. Not because it's complicated, it's not, but because if you actually do it, it will change the trajectory of your charity's income. Task 1. Write down one name, one person, one individual who has the capacity and the connection to make a gift of £5,000 or more to your charity. Not a company, not a trust, a person. Someone who has attended your events, volunteered their time, given consistently, or been personally touched by your cause. Write their name down right now if you can. That name is the beginning of your major donor program. Your entire pipeline starts with one name. Task 2. Find out 3 things about them. Before you do anything else, do your research. What do they do professionally? What causes do they support publicly? What is their connection to your work? You are not looking for a dossier. You are looking for enough context to have a genuine, informed conversation. 30 minutes of research is enough to start. Task 3. Plan one touch point in the next 30 days. Not an ask, not a pitch, one genuine personal touch point, an invitation to visit your work, a phone call to share an exciting development, a handwritten note about something you know they care about. One touch point in the next 30 days. That is your cultivation beginning. That is it. 3 tasks. One name, 3 facts, 1 touch point. If you do those 3 things, you will be further ahead in major donor fundraising than the majority of small and medium sized health charities in the UK. And if you want support working through this, if you want to talk through your prospect list, your cultivation plan, or your ask strategy, you know where to find me. The link to book a free discovery call is in the show notes and on the podcast website at strategichealthcheck.com. No pitch, no pressure, just a real conversation about your charity's growth potential. Before I go, a quick word about where you are in this finale. This was episode 12, The Diagnosis. Episode 13 with Liz Darlison MBE is out now, and it's the human story behind everything I've just told you. And then episode 14, also out today, is my honest verdict on the state of UK health charity fundraising, where season 1 got things right, where I think it missed, and where I think we're heading in. Oh wait, I don't know if I can announce it yet if we were having another season. But if we've had the green light for another season, then I want you to be ready for it. You can found out more about that in the last episode. So 3 episodes, 1 finale. Listen to them in order if you can. But for now, go write that name down. One name. That is all it takes to start. I am Jose Gaign. This has been the Strategic Health Check. Episode 13 with Liz Darlison, MBE, is up next. I will see you there.